Greetings, Signals. Welcome back to Lysander. We are actually, for the first time, live streaming to all of our platforms. Every single one that hasn't banned us yet is getting this feed because we're going to tell you about a neat thing that we're going to be doing for the next 24 to 48 hours. We're going to be streaming something cool for the voting thing. And this stream is to tell all of our audience everywhere across the globe exactly what we're going to be doing and how you guys can actually help in a really cool way. So that's why we're streaming to everything all at once today, because we want everybody to know about it so that they can get involved if they want. And because this stream wasn't advertised, this is like a last-minute surprise stream, I brought in my partner in victimless crime, Kason, to help me talk through this. We're going to talk through what we are about to do. We're about to kick off a 24 to 48 hour long stream, and we'll get to the details of what that means in a little bit. But because this is an unscheduled, unplanned live stream, we're going to talk through some other things before we get to the meat of that, just to let people kind of filter in and join. So this video is going to be discussing the morality of voting. It's going to be giving you updates. Well, I guess we'll start with updates. Hi, Kason. I didn't even give you a chance to talk. Hey, everybody. This is my partner in victimless crime, Kason. Hi, Kason.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
So we're gonna begin by announcing that our newest audiobook, No Treason: The Constitution of No Authority by Lysander Spooner, is about to be published. You will see that published on the Untitled channel. It was produced at the same quality level that all of our other audiobooks that end up on Audible. So it's a full production quality, high end. Many hours were put into it to make it high quality for you audiobook. It will not be on Audible for some really dumb copyright rules that Audible has around public domain works. So we figured we would release it for free to the world and sort of say, hey, if you appreciate, a full production quality audiobook of Spooner's No Treason, maybe you can drop a tip in our hat, but we're going to release that on Untitled soon. So that is the first announcement that we wanted to give to you as people are filing into the stream here. What's up, Tricky Woo? What's up, Zach? What is up? Oh, hey, my wife's in chat. Look at that. What's up? What's up, wife? You don't see her in the live stream chat very often. Okay, so
it's big news. Got to get everybody involved.
Yeah,
gotta get your mom involved. We gotta get everybody's mom involved here.
Exactly. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to do while we're kind of waiting on people to join the stream here is I wanted to discuss my article that I would still call like a final draft. It's probably gonna be published in somewhere eventually. There's enough caveats on there.
Somewhere soon, maybe. You'll see.
But I wanted to read through it here because we're coming up on voting. I will not have a chance for another live stream before the big day coming up. So this will be it. I was going to make it a separate stream on the Untitled channel, but we're going to be doing this cool thing that we're going to tell you about here in a little bit instead. So let me just kind of get to it. I want to read through this article. This is my case on the morality of voting. Kason? Oh, good. You hid yourself. Man, you know exactly when to do that.
I know what's up.
This is published currently on our website, disenthralled.me/voting. I'm going to read through this, and then we're going to get to the announcement, and then the sort of how you guys can help. Okay, so the morality of voting. In the mixture of people that self-identify as libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, or agorist, voting is a very hotly debated activity. There are the more subjective, shame-based arguments that point out the disgustingness of playing the state's game in begging for a little less tyranny, as a slave might beg their master for less whippings. There are also the rational and ethical arguments, such as Lysander Spooner's work in No Treason, which we'll quote here shortly, which describe a vote as a bullet fired in self-defense against the other vote bullets aimed at us with the intent to control us at the cost of our lives if resisted hard enough. I self-identify using all of the above labels, while at the same time have run a campaign in the Texas state gubernatorial election and intend to continue doing so. This places me directly in the center of the controversy and has required much effort and thought in determining the correct moral position on the topic. This article will make a new argument in the space based on the non-aggression principle as a fundamental rubric for acting in a moral way, that is to say, without initiating harm or coercion on any peaceful people. I will incorporate the strongest facets from Spooner and will iterate on the inaccuracies that I think are missed in most debates on this topic. So first, let's start with Lysander's vote bullet argument straight from the man himself, for those that haven't read it recently. I'm sure literally all of you have read this, right? And if not, audiobook's coming out soon. So this is a quote from Spooner's No Treason on voting. Quote, "In truth, in the case of individuals, their actual voting is not to be taken as proof of consent, even for the time being. On the contrary, it is to be considered that without his consent having ever been asked, a man finds himself environed by a government that he cannot resist, a government that forces him to pay money, render service, and forego the exercise of many of his natural rights under peril of weighty punishments. He sees, too, that other men practice this tyranny over him by the use of the ballot. He sees further that if he will but use the ballot himself, he has some chance of relieving himself from this tyranny of others by subjecting them to his own. In short, he finds himself without his consent so situated that if he use the ballot, he may become a master. If he does not use it, he must become a slave. And he has no other alternative than these two. In self-defense, he attempts the former. His case is analogous to that of a man who has been forced into battle, where he must either kill others or be killed himself. Because to save his own life in battle, a man attempts to take the lives of his opponents. It is not to be inferred that the battle is one of his own choosing. Neither in contests with the ballot, which is a mere substitute for a bullet, because his only chance of self-preservation, a man uses a ballot. It is to be inferred that the contest is one into which he voluntarily entered, that he voluntarily set up all his own natural rights as a stake against those of others, to be lost or won by the mere power of numbers. On the contrary, it is to be considered that in an exigency, did I say that right this time? Exigency. I messed that up in the audiobook, I had to fix it. On the contrary, it is to be considered that in an exigency into which he had been forced by others and in which no other means of self-defense offered, he, as a matter of necessity, used the only one that was left to him." End quote. Okay, so that's Spooner's argument. My argument, I'm going to try and put in a more syllogistic form. We'll talk through it, and then we'll get to the announcement. My argument is this. Premise 1. People that assist in criminal activity are partially or equally culpable for the results of the group's actions. So, i.e., if John disables a bank's security systems for a group of bank robbers or serves as the getaway driver, John is at least partially culpable for the theft crime and bank robbery as a co-conspirator that provided material support to the group's efforts. Premise 2. Voting for a candidate has the effect of assisting them in winning office and gaining coercive power over innocents and/or access to resources for harm and coercion. Voting provides material support to the effort of political crime. Conclusion. If the supported candidate is subsequently elected and those powers and resources are used to create innocent victims and to coerce, the person that voted for the candidate is at least partially culpable as a co-conspirator in the creation of innocent victims and for their coercion. So that is my argument. Now let's kind of talk through it. Now, this section is called Vote Grenades, and I consider this to be a better analogy than Lysander Spooner's Vote Bullets, a more accurate or precise analogy. The article says, Spooner is very right that someone voting is not an affirmation of consent to be controlled by government. Spooner is very right that people use government guns to force their ideas and way of life onto us. Spooner is very right that there is nothing wrong with attempting to fire the exact same government guns back at the people trying to fire them at you. However, the lever that is missing and that invalidates the claim of self-defense in Spooner's Vote Bullets analogy is that there is no ballot trigger we can pull that will launch defensive vote bullets only at those firing offensive vote bullets at us. You cannot call an action self-defensive if it creates new, innocent, peaceful victims. Most votes are more like grenades that explode, harming everyone in the room you throw it at, aggressors and innocent bystanders alike. The collateral damage can be so far-reaching that it's frequently impossible to quantify. People vote bulleted for the anti-war candidate Obama and helped a man gain power that was used in the murder of between a few hundred and a few thousand non-combatants and children. And those victims weren't even given the opportunity to send vote bullets back at him because they weren't even in the country. Other people vote bulleted for Trump to keep Hillary Clinton and her leftist socialistic policies away, and helped a man get government power, which he then used to coerce the owners and employees of General Motors to produce more ventilators than they otherwise were for the COVID situation. So not only are voters not getting the government guns pointed in the direction they're wanting, but in the attempt, they are creating collateral damage the world over. Consider the following analogy. There is a group of men with guns, we'll call them G, and 3 groups of slaves, we'll call them R, D, and N. Republican voters, Democrat voters, and non-voters. The group that Spooner missed in his 2 options. You get to choose one of the 3 slave groups to be in. Group R points G's guns at the D's and the N's to get what they want. Group D points G's guns at the people in Group R and at N to get what they want. Group N doesn't point G's guns at anyone. This is the group not considered in Spooner's argument. The question is, which group is peaceful and which are aggressors? Which group is the moral one to stand in? We can easily grant that G is ubiquitously evil, of course, and is the prime issue. But as for the slave groups competing over the coercion, there is one that is unique in that they are not creating new victims of people not already attempting to coerce them. Group N. Groups R and D are caught in a mutual offense self-defense scenario, a scenario which shouldn't even be possible except through intergenerational coercion facilitated by G, which makes it possible for both groups to be subjected to coercion from the other since birth. We can't point to a member of one or the other and determine who initiated the aggression. They are both actively participating in it while also claiming self-defense from the very real aggressions of the other. Neither R nor D can complain about others pointing guns at them because such a defense would be precluded by their own commissions of the exact same aggressions. It is obviously self-contradictory to complain that someone is committing the exact same crime you are presently inflicting upon them. Group N, however, has every right to complain about it, about R and D. In the process of their war for control of power, or even in their attempts at self-defense, these groups are pointing G's guns at N as well, creating new innocent victims out of people that have never threatened or coerced them. In their attempts to defend themselves from each other, they are helping G create more coercion and destroy more property. The N's might really like to defend themselves from the R's and the D's. They might really like to. But there is no lever in democracies to pull that restricts their vote bullets to only hitting other voters attempting to coerce them. The only available option is to join in with the R's or the D's in their actions that harm everyone, including other N's, or to not get involved at all. Okay, what about the L's? This is something that people always scream to me when I make this point to them. Some might be screaming about the L's at this point and wondering where they are in the analogy. Well, first, they're not in the analogy because they aren't currently winning any power anywhere, so it would have just convoluted the analogy. Second, most libertarians, air quotes, running for office, have barely a passing acquaintance with the principles behind the label. If most of them ever actually won power, something that would be contradictory to libertarianism in and of itself, they would be creating victims out of the N's no less. Okay, maybe a little less than the R's and the D's, Most Libertarian Party candidates support at least some elements of aggression spanning the entire spectrum of political coercion, from the existence of a non-consensually funded military, the reduction and even abolition of private property rights, state border enforcement, even some forms of taxation, like my opponent Mark Tippett did in the 2018 Texas gubernatorial race where he won the nomination, to even socialized healthcare, like my opponent Kathy Glass touted in that same race. These are Libertarian Party members, right? Most L options have their supporters still assisting in aggressions. Finally, let's talk about exceptions to my argument. Going back to the syllogism at the beginning of this article, let's look at problems commonly raised and see if there are any exceptions. Premise 1. What are the problems that we could find with premise 1? Premise 1 was people that assist in criminal activity are partially or equally culpable for the results of the group's actions. I suppose you could wish to live in a society where the dispute resolution contracts functioned such that people were only culpable for their specific actions. I.e., the getaway driver would only be guilty of driving his car away from the bank and not for the stolen money or the people the robbers inside the bank harmed or killed in the process of their crime. This would lead to some absurd situations, which is likely why common law justice systems throughout history have held co-conspirators culpable for the crimes that their group commits. I've never had a person contest this premise, so we'll move on. Premise 2. This was, voting for a candidate has the effect of assisting them in winning office and gaining potentially coercive power over innocents and or access to resources for harm and coercion. This is for the people that say that voting has no effect, that it's a rigged system and people can vote however they want and votes have no effect and the higher-ups decide who wins irregardless. I've had many people tell me that voting is ineffectual, that it does nothing, or that the winning candidate are decided by other people or processes, nefarious or otherwise, that are not influenced by a vote. If that claim turns out to be true, then my argument is defeated. It's pointless. If votes have no actual effect in the world, then there is no moral judgment behind them. Voting would then be as morally important as sleeping. You could vote all you wanted and still be culpable for none of the candidate's actions. Though, if you thought voting was actually useless and pointless and ineffectual, it does seem kind of weird that you would vote. So, those are my thoughts there. I think there is a burden of proof to be reached, though, that, at least for me, I have not yet been convinced. And this is a case-by-case thing, right? Certainly some votes are more contrived than others, and other votes are more effectual than others. So are there exceptions to the conclusion? Well, there are two exceptions or objections that can, let's see, what did I say? There are two objections or exceptions that can provide for a vote that does not run afoul of this syllogism, and one that fails. Number one, the supported, voted for candidate does not win. If the person that you vote for doesn't win, then there are no innocent victims, coercion, or other crimes for the voter to be a co-conspirator in. This means that most votes for libertarians, even the least consistent and unprincipled ones, don't end up being immoral. Or do they? Are failed bank robbers let free, or are they charged with attempted bank robbery? Is pointing the vote bullet gun at someone but not firing it still the crime of threatening deadly force? It would seem to be obvious that this is not the exception that some people wish it was. It is still wrong to threaten your neighbors with your vote bullets or vote grenades, even if they don't end up hitting their targets. Number two, the vote, if the vote is not for a candidate, but for a referendum or ballot measure that creates no victims. So this would be for like a referendum to decriminalize marijuana, for example. First of all, not having to trust that a candidate that you assist in gaining power through a vote will do what just about every single politician in history has done, breaking promises and doing things their voters didn't want, makes this discussion a lot simpler. A referendum to, let's say, abolish the IRS or just outright reduce taxes or eliminate some regulation, for example, would create zero new innocent victims, and is therefore a fine exception to my argument. You would be able to fire your vote bullets specifically at the people that supported those things being done to you without subjecting innocent third parties to any coercion. So that is a valid exception. Number 3, the supported candidate wins, but creates no victims. This is an interesting exception. This is a high bar to reach and is probably only theoretically possible. One could run on a platform of non-aggression principle compliance, never use power to coerce, never use government resources to harm, vote no on every bill, end every government program and agency they had access to end, and never even so much as cash a paycheck filled with extorted tax resources. I attempted something kind of like this with my campaign for not governor of Texas, while this position was clearly way too libertarian to actually get the nomination of the libertarians in the party, it did prove to be possible, at least in Texas, and at least up till the point of nomination. Okay, let's summarize, and then we'll get to our announcement. Summary. It appears that it is neither true that voting is always immoral, nor that it is always morally permissible. It depends on what you're actually achieving with your decision to take action in support of a particular person or cause. If you are assisting in the control and coercion of peaceful people that are not threatening you, then you are culpable for providing that assistance, even if you had the good intentions of protecting your own property or freedom. If you are supporting political processes that are strictly limited to reducing and or eliminating government coercion, then there ceases to be a moral objection. That is not to say these political processes are valid in the first place. If a thief robbing you in a dark alley gives you a button that he says will cause him to stop robbing you, while you may say that it's dumb to play his games and kind of disgusting to play his games, there's nothing wrong with pushing his button in an attempt to defend yourself. So, the kind of summary and point that many people miss in these discussions is that you cannot call something self-defense that creates new innocent victims. Okay, so that is the end of the voting article. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We read through that to give people time to join the live stream so we can tell you what we're about to do. Kason, what did you think about all of that? That's my first attempt at writing something down.
I think it's really good because it builds on so many conversations that we've had just at like VOD or in passing. But I think your analogy or showing that Lysander Spooner's, like, his book's great. Like, holy mackerel. I know you spent a ton of time recording it and editing it and all that. But his bullet analogy falls short because it creates new victims. Vote grenades is like spot on. So I think you nailed it there. Because a lot of people don't consider that. Like, oh, well, I'm going to vote for somebody like libertarian. Like I know a couple people that are advocating voting for, this libertarian or that libertarian. But then whenever I go and look at their party platform, it's like, okay, this is good. This is good. Oh, hang on. You want to use the general fund of this state to do something? That's not okay. That's not moral. That's using stolen resources to accomplish something. That's not good at all. That's evil. But it was doing the not governor thing was really a big letdown to realize that libertarians are libertarian to a point, and then they're not. So I would call them not libertarian by the definition of I do not advocate the initiation of use of force to accomplish social good, right? Like the Libertarian Pledge. I always found that to be a bit of a contradiction because, as you said, you're too libertarian for the Libertarian Party. Turns out I was as well. They called me NODA, or none of the above, because I wouldn't vote for anybody at the county level who would answer, is taxation theft? Yes. And then say, but I would take a stolen paycheck because I'm poor and I need the money if I was going to become the railroad commissioner or whatever. Like, that's contradictory. Don't you see it? So anyway, I just put the link up, disenthrall.me/voting, if anybody wants to go and check out the article for themselves.
Do you know the day that I discovered Texas had its own multi-branch military was the day when I found out that my opponent in the gubernatorial race had plans to use it? It was so contradictory.
Texas National Guard to save the border, right? Oh, geez. I remember that. I was just watching that clip earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so people have filtered in. Heads up, people. We're going to tell you about a cool thing we're doing. So we do this about every 2 years when there's a big voting season hitting over on the Disenthrall channel. And we're broadcasting out to Anarchast as well this time, because there's a lot of people there that probably want to help, as well as maybe assist the technology that we're going to be deploying in the future as well. So here's the thing. Every year that we've done this voting live stream, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in the background. So this is a voiceover monologue. Let me refresh it.
For them. But that's okay. You were just trying to buy time to change a few more hearts and minds, to finally get the government under control. So you try again. And your Second Amendment defending red-blooded American candidate makes felons out of anyone and everyone with the wrong rifle accessories by presidential executive order fiat. But that's okay. You just wanted someone that could go after the deep state. So you try again. And your guy allows even pettier, unelected tyrants to...
Okay, so it's a series of paragraphs that were written by a bunch of our viewers that make the case over a very long live stream, sort of the futility of the normie voter. They always have the same excuses to continue trying to vote. And it never works. In fact, almost every time, something else is made worse. Even the thing that they were trying to prevent by voting is made worse. So this stream is something that the big tech companies really don't appreciate. Just think about it. How much have all of you been spammed over the past month by every single tech company and website and app that you log into or open to remember to go vote? Remember to vote. Make sure, go find out where your polling places are. Here's a handy, helpful link. Oh, and click this link to tweet out that you voted. Like, how many of you are sick and tired of being spammed by literally every piece of technology that you hold an interface with to go vote right now? How many of you? So what we do every couple years is this live stream that sort of speaks against it. It shows the futility of voting. It shows, it's meant for the normies to see. It's a looped video that just sort of makes the case. So you try again, and your idiot candidate ends up just playing golf and tweet-provoking and other nuclear superpowers. But that's okay, because you were just happy to see all the right people mad at him getting elected. So you try again. And your guy doesn't even try to pardon all the people convicted of so-called victimless crimes, even though it's the one thing that he can unilaterally do under this justice system. Anyway, so it's this never-ending stream of, so you vote again, and it doesn't work. But that's okay, because bullshit excuse. So you try again, and it doesn't work, and it makes things worse. But that's okay, because of some other bullshit excuse that people tell themselves. And every 2 years, every 4 years, they do it again and again and again. And this live stream is good at illustrating that for people. And so every voting season, we stream it on loop for at least 24 hours straight. 2 years ago, we did it. Facebook took the stream down within 4 hours. They don't like this one, guys. So here's the problem that we run into. They don't like this one. All these tech companies are spending a lot of resources right now spamming all of you to try and get you to vote. And this is kind of showing you how dumb that is, right? So they don't like it. They take it down. So how do we get around that? Well, we're trying something new this year. And we're going to tell you how to do it with us. So not only are we going to try and do the thing that we usually do, where we stream it to all of our platforms. I'll send it out across all the Disenthrall platforms. I probably won't do Anarchast, but we'll stream it on every endpoint that we have for Disenthrall. And we are providing you files that will allow you to very quickly and easily configure your own piece of software on your computer to grab a copy of our stream and stream it, sort of re-stream it to your own profiles. So all of you can sort of join in and grab a copy of this signal and stream it to your own personal profiles. Stream it to your Facebook, you could stream it to Twitter, you could stream it to Float, you could stream it to any of the platforms where you interface with people, especially the normies. It's going to be a lot harder for him to take down if 1,000 of you grab a copy of the stream and sort of re-upload it or re-stream it live to your profile for 24, 48 hours, however long you want to do it. So rather than us just being the single point of failure that can be silenced, we're going to try and see if we can prevent them from stopping the signal by giving you guys a copy or an ability to hook into the stream and restream it. And let's see how well that works. Okay, so now that we've kind of told you what we're going to be doing, we're going to tell you how you can do it for yourself. Kaysen's going to help me here as well. So the first thing, and there's links in the description of all of the stream on both of the YouTube channels right now that'll give you all the software that you need. The first thing you need to do, there's a link to it in the description. Distributed streaming, exactly. Decentralized streaming, kind of. Like, we're going to give you the feed, and then they're going to have to silence everybody. Like, if we have to put up with them spamming us, they're going to have to put up with us spamming them. MFers. How about that? Anyway, I'm really excited by the idea.
Quid pro quo, tech company. Quid pro quo.
And I hope literally hundreds of you guys pick up on this and do it too. In fact, we'll probably leave the stream up, depending on how many people we have restreaming it, we'll probably leave it up for longer than 24, 48 hours or something like that. So, okay, let's get into it. Step one, you install the OBS streaming software. I have a link to OBS. I do somewhere. Here, I'll just open it up. It's really easy. You just Google OBS, go to the first link, and then you pick your operating system. Windows, Mac are really easy. Linux is a little bit more tricky, but not too bad. And you install the software. It's free, decent streaming software. Step two, start the software, which I have done for you here. This is what it looks like. It looks really complicated, but we have provided two things that you need that handle most of the problems for you. We've provided a profile and we've provided a scene that it's already set up and configured, pointed at the right location, sized correctly, all that stuff. So even if you don't know anything about streaming, you should be able to follow along and hook in and sort of restream. Okay. So the next thing you need to download after you've installed OBS, and there's a link in the second item of the description, I believe, is the link to this file. Currently it's hosted on Google Drive. We'll change it if we need to. This is a zip file that contains the config files that you need. So you download that file, you unzip it, and you get this right here. So it's going to be a folder and a file. The folder is the profile, the file is the scene. So to import them, you just, actually when you first open OBS, there's a window that pops up that wants to auto configure stuff. You cancel that. I forgot about that step, sorry. So first you import the profile by clicking on the profile menu. You click on import. Then you navigate to the folder that you downloaded. Click the profile folder, import that. Now you have the Disenthrall Anarcast Restream profile right there. You can select it from the menu. Then you go over to scene and you do the same thing. You go import. Click the little the little ellipsis button, the three dots button. You navigate to that same folder that you extracted, and you pick the Disenthrall Anarcast Restream scene file. Click open. Click import. Then in your scene list, you pick Disenthrall Anarcast Restream scene. And you'll notice that everything is pretty much ready to go already at this point. So what this has done is pointed your OBS software at the float website for Disenthrall, where we're currently streaming everything on loop. Here is the trick that you need to do. The last sort of thing that you should do here is, let's see, you're going to click on your settings. You're going to click on the audio tab, because I think by default it leaves some audio devices enabled that you don't want. Usually desktop audio, you want to disable that because you don't want to stream out whatever you're doing on your computer. And also your microphone, you want to disable that so that if you have a mic on your computer, you're not streaming out whatever's happening around your computer. And then the last thing you do is click on this browser source down here, right click on interact, which brings up the web page in a way that you can interact with it. And you can even make this bigger if you want to make it easier to see. But just like as if you were watching a live stream, you maximize it so that it takes up the full screen. Make sure the volume's turned all the way up. and then you can close this window. That's the configuration. You have wired into the Disenthrall stream. You are now ready to restream a live feed of our broadcast to wherever you want. And they're going to have to take us all down to stop this one this time, guys. So the last step, obviously, is picking where you want to send it to. And Kaysen's going to pop on here and walk through the Facebook steps for wiring it into Facebook. If you need help with any of the other platforms, Twitter, Float, whatever, if you want to rebroadcast this to other places, join our Discord server. Kaysen has a Discord join link down there. There's also a Discord join link in the description. You can join, ask for help. We have people that will gladly help you set up OBS and point it at whatever platform you'd like to annoy with the anti-voting message. So, okay, Kaysen, why don't you take it away? So basically, I've got OBS all set up with everything they need to grab the signal, and now you're going to tell us how to wire it into Facebook to shove the signal up their ass.
Absolutely. So if you could take me full, I'll share my screen over here. I kind of followed the steps that you were doing, so I have also pulled up OBS here with all of its assorted configuration that you just went through. So now we need to basically tell this, where do we want to send this signal? Because we have the signal, we can see the video, we can even see the audio bouncing up and down there. That's kind of cool. I feel like I'm in the Matrix or something. So there's a settings button at the bottom right, okay? So we hit settings, and then we're going to tell it where there's a couple different places, right? We're going to look for stream, because we're going to be streaming this. Now, I've already put in my information, but I'm going to show you how to get this information. So I'm just going to wipe out all my stuff here. So it's pretty simple. I'm going to show you Facebook, but then if anybody has any questions, you can go to our Discord, which I guess I'll just leave the link up while showing you this. If you have any questions, go to Discord, message at Not Governor, that's Patrick, or at Taxation is Theft, that's me, and we'd be happy to give you a help. So I'll just pull up a fresh window here in Chrome. I'll go to Facebook. Okay, so in Facebook, I have my news feed blocked just to be a bit more productive during the day because I use Facebook for business. That's just a fun thing for some people. But at the top where you put in your status or upload a photo, there's a thing that says live video. So since we're going to be doing a live restream, we're going to click on that. And that's going to pop open a whole bunch of different configuration settings. I'm going to go through this real quick. So under the Get Started tab, it wants to, by default, use your camera. Well, unless you want to actively use your camera and not restream what we're doing, that's not what you want. What you want to do is hit Use Stream Key. Okay. So whenever you click on that, it's going to give you a bunch of different options. The key ones that you need are the server URL. This is like where are you pushing it to, in which case this is the same for everybody. Okay, live, blah, 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 facebook.com/blah, blah, blah. Right. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to go back to OBS, and then that is the server right there. Okay, so just making sure it starts with RTMP and it ends with RTMP/. I'll just double check. Starts with RTMPS and ends with RTMP/. So I got it all. And then the second part is to grab like the stream key. Think of this more like a password. If you're not using a persistent stream key, which if you want to set it up once and never have to deal with it again, you can do that. I've unchecked that. That's so I don't reveal my password to all my streams forever on this live stream on accident. So stream keys are valid for 7 days. Once you start to preview the broadcast, you have up to 5 hours to go live. So I'm just going to copy all and plug that under stream key. And I won't show that, but normally I would verify the last 2 characters or whatever in the first couple characters just to make sure I grab the whole thing. Then we just hit apply at the bottom right, and that's going to apply the setting inside of OBS. So it doesn't look like anything happened, but because apply grayed out, that means that it did take what we just plugged in. Potentially, whenever you first start OBS, it may point to something other than custom at the very top. Just make sure it's on custom, because if you try to wire it in through something else, it may be a different config, and I wouldn't mess with that. So then we just hit OK. And then it's pretty simple. We just hit start streaming. Now, it's not live yet, and I'll show you how we know. Okay, so it says connecting live video at the bottom right. Also, if I scroll up, what it should do is create a preview window. Allows me to look at it, check the quality, etc.
You can't shut us all down.
And then also, and then it also lets you preview the audio.
Full accessories by.
So you can make sure that your audio is good and all that jazz. Now, in my case, I'm just going to share to my timeline as I'm only sending it to me. I'm not ready to restream it to everybody just yet because I'm doing a live stream with Patrick. So I'll call this test delete after.
But the name of the stream
test,
should probably be
after.
The name of the stream should be something along the lines of voting explained in 24 hours.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
like
if for the actual live voting explained in 24 hours, and then if you want to help us out, link to disenthrall.me/support. That would be super cool. Hey, if you don't, no biggie, but a couple tips in the hat would be helpful. And then it's so you can see your video, you could listen to your audio, and if everything looks good to you, you just hit go live. It's going to say starting. And we are waiting confirmation. Boom. We're live. Jason Bryden is live now. So if I pull up another window, I should be able to pull up my personal page and just see that it's there. There we go. Done, baby. It's ready. Now, you don't have to you can send it to your page, and then from there, go to, say, share. And then you could share it to a page or to a group that you're a part of. This is how lots of videos get shared around, and it spreads like wildfire. So I'd strongly recommend sharing to a page or a group. And then whenever you're all said and done, whenever the feed is over or whatever, you can end the live video by clicking on this, or you can go into OBS if you've closed this window, and you can hit stop streaming, and it'll stop the stream for you. It'll take probably 20 seconds or whatever for it to end throughout all of Facebook. So you may have like a little bit of dead air at the end, but no one's going to be hurt by that. No biggie. So that is how to set up the you can't stop the signal restreaming solution that's been built, version 1.0. So yeah.
Version 1.0, and here's why it's 1.0, because in the future, if we ever actually have some important live stream that we want to be harder to censor, if everybody has this installed, this OBS setup installed and set up, we can just hit go again, and everybody can share and restream and decentralize this feed to everywhere in a way that's probably going to be more difficult for them to justify taking down than just whacking one channel off their platform. So I'm pretty sure as soon as this stream's over, we're going to hit go on all the disenthrall stuff, and we're going to leave this running. I'm probably going to leave it running for at least 48 hours, and that'll give all of you time to download the software, go through these steps, ask us for help if you run into any problems, and let's run this and try and wake a few people up before the big voting day. Any other thoughts, Kason?
Well, just a kind of a reminder, if anybody has any trouble setting it up, we'll be on Discord. So here's the invite link. You can also find it if you don't write this down or whatever at disenthrall.me/platforms. But just go ahead, plug it in, join the server. There's no cost to join. You can just hop in and say hello. And then if you do have a question, you can always ping one of us in the main chat later. We can help you out.
Yep. All right, guys. Just got here recap. Oh, wow. Okay. So Disenthrall, we're running a 48-hour live stream about voting. It's a loop of sort of red pill information to illustrate the futility of voting. But not only are we going to do that ourselves, but we just made it easy for basically anybody to hook into our stream over on Float and restream it to all of everyone's own personal social networks to make it harder to be taken down. Because last time we did this, our stream was murdered by Facebook in less than 4 hours. So this time, if big tech thinks that they can freaking spam all of us for weeks on end about getting out the vote, well, it's time for us to spam all of them with a stream that maybe wakes a few people up with some dissenting information that's harder for them to censor. So that's the TLDR. How did I do on that? Hope I did well. So as soon as this is over, I'm going to go kick it off on the Disenthrall platform. The stream is already live and ready for you to pick up on the Float page with the OBS files that we talked about in this video. Links are all in the description, and we will be on Discord if you have any trouble. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed this one. Good luck over the next few days. Stay safe. Stay safe. All right, guys. Take it easy.